Hi, I'm Kristi Kellogg, the social media editor at Bruce Clay Incorporated, and I'm here with Mark Traphagen and Dustin Stout, and let's say hi to them. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Kristi.
Hi. So these two gentlemen are going to be speaking at SMX, which is coming up on March 1st. And if you don't know them, they're both really smart and really great. Mark is the Senior Director of Online Marketing at Stone Temple Consulting, and Dustin is the Chief Marketing Officer at Wheel Media Corporation. Do you guys want to share a little bit about your backgrounds?
Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, age before beauty.
Go ahead, Dustin. Am I older than you? I don't know. We've never compared ages, so I'm not sure. You know.
We're not sure.
Okay.
Well, you're definitely the prettier one.
Okay. Well, I'll take that. Gosh, yeah, I've been in online marketing now for it seems incredible, but like 12, 13 years. Started out helping a bookstore, small independent bookstore, to get online. Kind of dove in the deep end. Found that I loved it and have been chomping away at it ever since. Very pleased and proud to work with Eric Anga at Stone Temple Consulting for about a little over 2 years now.
So great. And Dustin, how about you?
So my journey into the world of marketing is an interesting one. So I started out as just a simple youth pastor who didn't know really anything about web design or social media. All I knew was I was running a youth group and we needed a website. So I taught myself how to build websites and fell in love with WordPress and started blogging because I wanted a way to record the things I was teaching my students. And so I started blogging and then just realized that the best way that I learn is to write about what I'm learning as I'm learning it because I retain it better. And they say that you I think it's you retain 10% of what you hear, but 90% of what you teach. So I just started writing about what I was learning in social media. I'm extremely social as a human being. I just love interacting with people. So when the web design came together and the blogging started happening and the social media started to take off, it was a perfect combination for me. I was already a bit of a designer from a graphics standpoint, and the marriage of those three things and the online world exploding about social media just kind of led me into professional blogging. Fast forward 4 or 5 years later, I'm now CMO of a digital marketing firm, and we do SEO, we do web design, branding, and we also do social media management, strategy, and marketing.
That's so great. And what I love about both of your stories was like your passion for digital marketing was born out of a desire to be useful, which is what we should always be trying to do. So thanks for sharing your stories. So for our viewers, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about social media and strategy and tactics, and it's going to be great. So let's just jump right in. And the first question that I want to ask you guys is, what topics or platforms in social media have like really grabbed your interest lately? We all have like hot topics that are on our mind. So what's on yours?
I'll tell you one thing that that I'm sort of really excited about is this. We know that visual content has been a big trend for the last 2 years, and it's only getting bigger. It's not going away. And now that visual content is sort of moving into this motion visuals or live video, and that's really exciting for me, especially coming from an acting background as well. That's one thing I left out. I actually came out to California to be an actor, like you do. And so being in front of the camera is something that I love and enjoy, and entertaining people. And this, the fact that technology has gotten to the point where video is so in demand and so easily accessible and so easily capturable, in our pockets with us all the time. It's really exciting for me to see the emergence of it and the evolution of it and how people are using it in different ways for, not just for business but also for, for hobbies and just for fun. So that's really exciting for me.
Awesome.
And I think for me, sorry, Kristi. I think for me, it's the implications of live streaming video. And I want to put that word implications in there because there's a lot of people now talking about, you get Brian Fanzo and Joel Comm and Carlos Gill and all these people who are talking about, the hottest trend is the live interactive video now. And what we're doing right now, but also, with things like Snapchat and Periscope and Blab and these kinds of platforms. And there's a lot, that's going to be the hot topic at a lot of the social media conferences this year. But I'm more interested in the implications of that. And I think one of the things it's waking us up to is that's hard for those of us who are social media people but have a content marketing heart is the ephemeral nature of social media. Accepting that social media is so much about the moment and it's about the experience. It's something that you are just one little drop in a flow, in a stream. That's what we call it, right? When you look at your stream online, and so rather than kicking against that, which I did for years, just made me crazy that I want everything I do to last for eternity and be put into a big solid gold-bound book. But that's just not going to happen in most people's mind. And accepting that and saying, all right, beginning to look at what do we do with that experience in the moment, and how do we use that moment, which may only be a few seconds, it may be 30 seconds, if we're lucky it might be a minute, 2, 3 minutes. How do we use that to make an impression upon people that gets us across the threshold, that gets us in the door with them? So among many other things, that's one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Okay, thanks for sharing. I guess I'll answer the question too. We've been thinking a lot in our media department about Snapchat. It's been on our minds because it's crazy and it's different than everything else, and we've been trying to dive into that along with a lot of other things. But we're going to talk more about Snapchat later, so we'll get to that. So Dustin, your session at SMX West is called Getting Images Right in Paid Search. At SMX East last year, we live blogged your solo presentation on trust in images, design, and color. So at SMX, you'll be joined by a couple of experts on the podium beside you. So just what's in store for this session, and what can we expect, and how will it be different from last time? What do we have to look forward to?
Well, I think it's really exciting for me, again, being a social person, that I get to share the stage this time. Because of schedule conflicts last year, it ended up being a solo session. It wasn't really supposed to be. So this time around, we're going to get 3 distinct perspectives and 3 distinct aspects of getting images right. And my segment is going to specifically cover sort of the psychology, design thinking, color psychology, design principles that are easily grasped, and we're going to try and fit it all in the context of display advertising. Because if you've ever tried to do display advertising, there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of different sizes you got to memorize. There's a lot of different, use cases, and it's just a difficult thing. So we're going to try and hone in on that one area and talk about display advertising. And as I talk about theory and psychology in design, some of our other presenters are going to talk about tools to utilize to make it easier for people to do, all the various display advertising sizes and configurations and optimizations. And then I'm not sure what the third person is going to be talking about. It escapes me right now. But undoubtedly, it's going to be a great series of conversations that we're going to have. I'm really excited about it because as much as I love being on the stage, I also love hearing other people's perspectives and experiences, because I think it was Emerson who said that every man is I can learn something from every man, and woman. He was back in the day where they said men and not women. He wasn't very politically correct. But there's going to be a very wonderful lady sharing the session with me, and gosh, her name escapes me too. I had it up right here. Laura Thiem, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She's the CEO of BizWatch, and we also have John Lee from Clicks Marketing. I'm just super excited to share the stage with other smarties.
That's great. I really enjoyed your session at SMX East.
Thank you.
Yeah, there were lots of tips in there. One thing that I guess I always did that I knew I shouldn't have been doing, but you had a great reminder not to do it, was putting text like so close to the edges when you're trying to fit all that in for the 20% on Facebook. But that's not okay because it looks sloppy, and you reminded us that we need white space and borders, and thank you for reminders.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So, Mark, your session at SMX West is going to be the social media clinic. What question are you sure you'll be asked at that session?
Okay. Well, there's a few that I can always be sure that I'm asked. I've done several of these. The social media clinics are a lot
Google
of fun.
Plus.
That wasn't on my mind, but it probably will come up. But social media clinic is just a time when there will be 3 of us on the stage who are experienced social media marketers, and it's open forum. People can ask anything that they want, and there's always great questions. But a few of the ones that just always come up, and you're always going to hear are, the first one is always going to be, how can I get more followers? And my number one, well, let me go through the questions first. How can I get more followers? How can I get more engagement? And then, I've got limited time. I can only get so much. What's the most important thing I can be doing on those? So to go back and answer those quickly, first of all, how can I gain more followers? Well, my response to that is always, refocusing the person on what do you want more followers for? You just want a number? I think that's becoming less and less valuable. There's, we could talk about the whole subject of social proof, and there's a certain amount of value in that. Somebody looks at your Twitter followers or your followers on another network. That may be a kind of just entrance point, but it's much more important who are those followers and why are they following you. You can get a lot more business value out of real fans, people who are really interested and targeted at your business and what you provide, and that they have the problems that you can solve, than you can out of large numbers. A lot more to say about that, but I'm just kind of giving the outline answers here. As the question of how can I get more engagement is very related to that. Again, it's more important to ask yourself, what do you want engagement for? What are you doing with that? Again, is it just, I think we, as social media marketing professionals, we need to be moving on beyond just these simple metrics that we used to take to the boss and say, see, we're doing good social media. We have lots of likes and we get lots of reshares and things like that. Those aren't without some fundamental or basic importance, but going beyond that and digging into, what are people liking or sharing? Why are they liking or sharing it? What is it saying? Who is sharing it? Those are all, much more important questions. And then finally, when somebody asks, what is the most important thing I can be doing now, I cheat and I say there's 2 things. I think one is learn everything that you can these days about paid social promotion, especially on Facebook. It's just critical. It's so crucial. And, it's time to get past all the whining, especially on Facebook, about, oh, Facebook took away my organic reach, and I worked so hard to get all these fans, and now, my posts don't reach them. Well, they may have done it, but they've actually given you a gift, and that gift is something that you could never do even if they were showing your post to all of your fans, and that is getting the right content to the right people and actually making sure that it's in front of their eyes at the right time in the right place. That targeting, it's worth paying for, and on Facebook right now, it's still, if you do it right, it's still pretty cheap. So that's the number one thing to learn. We're spending a lot of time in Stone Temple Consulting learning about that for ourselves and for our clients. The second thing is, with your organic approach to social media, concentrate far more on building relationships than on building than on just broadcasting or just trying to get your message out to as many people as possible. That's where the organic value comes in. The people that are seeing more of your content are people who have indicated some interest in it. They're engaging with it in some way, and most of the networks, even Twitter now, is going to begin to for many people to show more content to people who are interested or indicating interest in that content. So take advantage of that. Those are the people that you want to spend time with. You want to be interacting with them in whatever limited time that you have, showing them that you see them, that they're there, that you're real and you're responding to them means a lot, and it moves them on to that next step where they're more likely to become customers.
Okay, well, those are great answers. if you get asked those questions, you are definitely ready to go. So, okay, I have another question for you, Dustin. If you could eliminate from the universe one common design mistake, what would it be?
Man, if Mark cheated with two, I would probably have about a dozen that I'd really like to say.
Okay, you can have two also.
Oh, okay, so two. You know, you were at my session at SMX East, and I'll probably reemphasize this point at West, whereas people often forget that the point of a visual, of a graphic, whether it's an advertisement or a banner or a header for a website or even a header for your social profiles, the point of design is communication. The point of design is not to look pretty. As much as we try to make it look pretty, we try to make it look attractive and nice, the overall goal is to communicate a message. And so for me, anything that distracts from that message is counterproductive to what the overall goal is. And so the number one thing that I often find is a hindrance to communicating that message is clutter. So if I could eliminate one design faux pas or mistake or blunder, it would be the elimination of clutter. In marketing, we talk about honing down your message or honing down your story. At Wheel Media, we talk a lot about narrative and how to put together a good narrative for your website design or a landing page. But that same rule applies to graphics of any kind, any sort of visual. It's all about what one message are you trying to communicate, and especially in a display ad where you have 250 pixels maybe to communicate a message to get somebody to click. You have to eliminate anything that gets in the way of them getting the message and taking the action. So clutter. Clear out the clutter. Say it as simply and effectively as possible. And I think the other design concept that I think I would emphasize is color. The use of color can be a make or break point for some ads. And there's a lot that goes into color psychology and color theory. I would ask everyone to do just a little bit of research about color theory and how to use colors wisely. There's a lot of tools out there that can help you put together color palettes and coordinate colors, but also you always have to keep in mind that if it's too colorful, it blurs out the message. You can't see. And again, all about communication, right? So use the right colors, the right amount of colors, and only use colors strategically to get people to take the action that you want them to take. Yeah, I could probably rant on for about an hour about color theory. But those two, color usage and clutter.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, Mark, I have to congratulate you. You had one heck of a successful hangout last week with Google Webmaster Trends Analyst Gary Ilias. I know I'm saying his last name wrong. Does anyone know how it's actually supposed to be said?
Well, the funny thing was that Gary gave me a compliment during that show, saying that earlier in the show, I had said it correctly, and he never grants it. He won't ever say it himself.
I know.
But it's Hungarian. I lived in Hungary for 2 years, 2 summers, so it's as close as I can get is Gary Ilyes.
Ilyes.
Yeah, it's Ilyes, but in Hungarian that would be pronounced Ilyes.
Okay. Well.
He's a great guy.
Okay, so Gary Ilyes, who we all love, was on your hangout, and it was just awesome. I was listening. It was so useful and so many takeaways. From your perspective, what were the biggest things you took away?
Well, this is going to take us off social media a little bit because we didn't talk about that, and that's certainly not Gary's area. He's heavily invested in the search area, but just to give you a couple of things that I thought were important. Number one was our discussion about RankBrain. Maybe not all the audience has heard about that, but it was a huge announcement, kind of announcement that Google doesn't make very often last year when they said that they were now using what they called the third most important factor in the Google ranking algorithm. It's called RankBrain. What RankBrain is an application of machine learning. Eric Engar, CEO, just did a great article a couple weeks ago in Moz. People can look up on what machine learning is and how it affects SEO. So machine learning is basically it's incredible stuff. It's where you design an algorithm that allows the computer to go out into the world, so to speak, and learn on its own and learn by trial and error. So what they're using this for, what RankBrain does, is it allows the Google algorithm to learn from actual searches by people out there what they really mean for some more ambiguous or unclear searches, and make it more likely that Google is going to be able to match them up with what they're really looking for, much better than they could before. A quick example that that Gary gave was something like RankBrain can now understand sometimes some negative qualifiers like the word without that the old Google algorithm simply skipped over. So you might have been searching something like how can I build a website without spending too much money? And all Google would see before is build website spending money. It might give you actually a lot of very expensive results as a matter of case. But RankBrain can understand that that in a more subtle way that we humans would, what you really mean by that, and match you up with better content. So the only revelation that Gary had about that in our show was a good one, though, is that RankBrain is now globally active. It's acting across, and we're going to be coming out with some content very soon at Stone Temple that's going to show actual results before and after that we believe are being affected by RankBrain. The next thing that I thought was important was Gary talking about the Penguin update, the coming Penguin update we've been waiting for so long, that Google thought they would have out last year and then this quarter, and he said now it may not even come out this quarter. First important piece of news about that he gave us is the reason it's taking so long is they realize how much Google penalties affect sites, and if they get it wrong, it's horrific. If a site is incorrectly penalized, it's not really doing anything bad, but somehow the algorithm pings it. That's terrible, and we all know that's bad. So they're heavily testing it, and they want to make sure it's as good as possible before they put it out into action. The second thing was an interesting conversation about what that will look like, because it's supposed to be the first real-time Penguin. I say real-time kind of with air quotes, meaning that it will be the response will be a lot faster, whereas in the past it could take months after you made change. Let's say you get a Penguin penalty. You've been buying links, you've been doing bad things out there, and Google penalizes your site, and you clean it all up, you work hard to repent of your sins, but it could take months before Google would catch up with that and you would get restored or start to recover from that. Now the recovery can be much quicker. If you recognize you got a penalty, you make some changes, pretty much at the next crawl, next time Google crawls your site, it will begin to see those changes and restore you to health. So faster response time. So that was one thing. And the third thing is, I think I said very quickly, and Kristi, you're going to appreciate this, is both Stone Temple Consulting and Bruce Clay got a nice little shout out from Gary where he just said that we kind of rock. He was talking about bad SEOs, and he said that's the number one thing that he sees from sites that end up with a Google penalty is it's the result of they've hired some bad SEO out there. And he said, we know the sites that you guys do, Stone Temple and Bruce Clay, and he said, they're all doing great. So that was a nice little shout out.
Oh yes, viewers, you can watch that at minute 53, second one of the Hangout.
You know the exact minute and second.
I do. So,
you have it written down too.
That's awesome.
Gary literally says SEOs. Well, some SEOs can do magic, and then he said Bruce and Stone Temple Consulting, and we were pretty excited. So you can check out that at minute 53, and you can also learn about RankBrain, and you can learn about Penguin. Okay. So those are the things that you can check out in that video, which is awesome. So we have 5 minutes left, so let's just move right along. An article came out on February 13th, and it was from Quartz.com, and it's based on Pew Research, and I'm just going to share a quote because it applies to what we're talking about, and this is going to get into Snapchat. So the quote is, "Today, the newest data increasingly supports the idea that young people are actually transitioning out of using what we might term broadcast social media, like Facebook and Twitter, and switching instead to narrowcast tools like Messenger or Snapchat. So instead of posting generic and sanitized updates for all to see, they are sharing their transient, goofy selfies and blow-by-blow description of class with only their closest friends. So you guys, are you using Snapchat? How? Are you using it for your brand? Like, what's the goal? Tell me anything you think about Snapchat.
Well, I started using Snapchat a few weeks ago. It's, again, one of those things like I thought I would never do, and then I saw some really great people I admire who were using it and using it well, and so I started playing around with it. And it's just personal, my personal account so far, and just experimenting with it. Haven't done any branded content with it yet, but I think the bigger thing that we're seeing, going back to that research that you just talked about, is this shift of people who realize, like, most people aren't like us. We like to broadcast. We like to be, get our message out broadly and as widely as we possibly can. I was talking earlier about how it was really hard for me to accept ephemeral content. I want my content. And Nicholas Cardo from Social Warfare Plugins, I noticed in the comments, promised that he is binding all of my content that I've ever put online into a gold-bound book. So thank you for that, Nicholas. But the reality is that that more and more people today, and especially the younger people, they don't care about that. They want, it's very important for them to be seen by their friends, and for them to communicate with their friends and people that they know. They really don't care, for the most part, about broadcasting to a large audience. By the way, I read just quickly on that. Read an interesting article this morning that was talking about how some of the big mall retailers that have aimed at the younger market are really hurting now. Like the Abercrombie and Fitch type stores are losing sales, and one of the reasons that they're thinking now is because young people they don't really care about that. They just want they want to buy stuff quickly that they can immediately share and display, and just to their friends. So online retailers, some of the newer stores that can move faster, that can get fashion out faster than these older, more stodgy stores, are the things. So it's even affecting retail. Dustin, what are you thinking about all this?
Personally, I hate Snapchat. I think it's just like you said, Mark. It's all about the in the moment, quick, disposable content, and that's sort of how I've termed it when it first began to come on the scene and people were talking about it. Really, what it seemed like to me was a way for people to do stupid things and have it disappear and not worry about it showing up and haunting them. And for those of us who are professional content creators, or people who are just craftsmen in a way that they like to create digital things and keep them, it's completely unappealing as a platform, as a professional platform. Let me clarify that: a professional platform. As a communication tool, sure, it works great, but I think the big problem is just the generational problem that keeps following society as we go. The adults do something and they think it's cool, and the kids think it's not cool, so they want to do something else, right? So our generation, or this current generation of adults and professionals, social media was the big thing for us, and still is. We still love it and live it and breathe it and beat people over the head with it. But the younger, the millennials, well, I can't really say millennials because technically I'm a millennial. But everyone who is sort of after our generation saw the adults, or the older folks, getting into social media, and it's just not cool to them because adults are doing it. So as far as a marketing platform, while it's getting a lot of buzz and a lot of people are talking about it, I'm still not convinced at the marketing value. And I don't care what...
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you and push back on it. Get on it and look at what some of the brands are doing on it. Some of the big brands with the story feature, because that is the key now. Everybody thinks, us old people, we think of Snapchat as being a thing like, right, just send a selfie to your friend and it goes away in 10 seconds. The stories now are the big thing, and there's people doing incredibly creative stuff with that. And think back to what I said at the beginning. that I think the hump that we need to get over, us older people, with this is, being so married to our craftsmanship and our content that we don't realize that for most people it's the experience of the moment. And there's some brands out there that are giving me tremendous experiences that make an impression, even if I'm never going to, because you know what? 99% of the content you and I have ever produced, whoever's read it never looks at it again. So it's already the case, right?
But the one thing that I wanted to get at too is one thing that we always consider when it comes to any platform is user intent, right? And so what I'm sort of getting at with Snapchat is if the intent of the younger generation who's using Snapchat and in love with Snapchat, if their intent is simply to communicate with family and friends, and more marketing entities come in and sort of just try to barrage their typical marketing messages and stories and whatnot, while it might be creative, I'm still not sure that's how the next generation is going to respond. And I'd love to see some studies. I'd love to see some real tangible ROI about brand lift and whatnot via Snapchat, but I just haven't seen it yet. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it's going to be a difficult shift because this generation, as you said, Mark, they want to be on there to talk to their friends and family. They're not on there to find marketing messages and see brands.
So while we're investigating it here, it's just we want to understand everything, obviously, and get our hands dirty. But something, and I agree too, I'm totally confused by Snapchat. Like, as a person, like, I don't, it's just crazy. But anyway, but I did find you could put, like, you can make, like, rainbows come out of your mouth, and you can make yourself a dog. So I guess that's cool if you're in high school. But so what we're, like, thinking about, though, in terms of, like, marketing is a brand, like Mark said, can use it as a publisher. So that's maybe where the opportunity is for a big brand like Coca-Cola or Victoria's Secret or whatever it might be. And it's really interesting to learn that kids don't want everything they say public. I guess we've all thought that people don't care about privacy online, and it looks like we're wrong, for the younger millennials.
I think the one key, if you're a marketer, when you're looking at this, is that you've got to be creating content that people want to see on the medium. And what I'm talking about, what you haven't seen, Dustin, what you need to go see, is some of these brands are doing content that it's highly engaging, it's entertaining, it fits in the medium, they're getting it. And so even young people, well, they don't care if it's a brand, if it's entertaining and engaging them. I follow lots of brands on Instagram that I like to see on Instagram because they're posting images that I want to see, that they're attractive, they're great. So, I think that's what we need to be thinking about is, not the challenge with us, I think, as marketers, online marketers in particular, always is we're always going to have our personal prejudices and our own feelings about, I like this platform, I don't get this one, and we got to get over that because if the market is there, we maybe need to find a way to communicate with it.
Totally. So we're out of time. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was a great hangout. To our viewers, definitely check out their sessions at SMX. SMX is March 1st through 3rd. There's also an all-day SEO training on March 29th taught by Bruce. And if you want 10% off of both or either of those events, you can put in this code. Can you see it? WS-BC10 when you register, if you haven't registered yet.
Love the high-tech graphics there.
I know, right?
Did you have Dustin work on those?
Mark. Okay, so thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.